Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one's going to be like one of those, what grinds my gears, except I'm not going to act angry. I just am angry. Um, so I just feel like chatting about this one. I don't know why. It's been on my mind since I saw it. I don't get annoyed very easily at people, at the way people act, the way people see the world, how illogical people are. In Australia, we don't even know, we don't do debate as a subject. We don't know what logical fallacies are. We don't know what logic is and debate and arguments and things like that. We don't really know. Well, I didn't know until a couple of years ago, right? We don't get taught it. So this video is going to be about a post by Brett Contreas. If you haven't heard of him, Booty by Brett. This is him. Looks like a bit of a mad dog here. He is known as the glute guy on Instagram, and apparently is the inventor of the barbell hip thrust. I didn't know he was the inventor of it. He's got a PhD, biomechanics, so most of the time, what am I trying to say with this video? I have nothing against Brett. I don't think Brett is deceitful or a liar or anything like that. I get feelings towards how easily persuaded people are. We are. I'm a person. I'm sure in the past and maybe sometime in the future, I'm still human, but I'd like to make people aware of how easily manipulated we are, how persuadable we are, how pathetic we are. Strong word, sorry. But this just annoys me, stuff like this. So here's the glute guy. He has been preaching. You can see on his page, he's got fit-looking chicks with big bums. He's put out a lot of stuff pushing for the hip thrust and saying that the hip thrust is the best thing ever. Basically, if you've been doing hip thrusts in the gym or you've been in the gym seeing people doing hip thrusts, I don't know if he's the inventor of it, like he said. I'll believe him. I'll believe him because he says he's a PhD. But when I first started at the gym 12 years ago or 13 years ago, I did not see hip thrusts. And now they're everywhere, right? I've done them before. I get people to do them. I don't mind them. I don't love them. They're okay. This guy loves them and got a lot of people to love them with studies and science and being very deliberate with his words and very convincing. Here's why it's best. It feels like this. Here's this study. Here's this. Here's this. And then everyone was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then you do the hip thrusts and some people feel them a lot. So they go, yeah, I'm onto something. That's all well and good. And if you've seen good results doing it, amazing. Maybe keep doing them. Anyway, he came out with this post during the week. I'm going to go through it. And as I go through it, I'm not trying to, basically in this post here, he's going to admit that he was wrong. And a lot of people congratulate him on admitting he was wrong, as if that's some kind of feat, as if an old lady falling over in front of you and you picking her up is worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize. You're just admitting you're wrong about something you're wrong about. I don't know why that's deserving of a clap, but whatever. So that's more my issue, is people are, let's say a coach like me, let's say I've been coaching and I just believed the hip thrust and I believed Brett Contreas, the glute guy, just believed everything he said. And I was preaching just hip thrust. It's all you got to do 3 times a week. We've got to hit the glute med this way and we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And look at this study and look at this. And Brett says this. And then 10 years later or 5 years later or whatever, he posts, oh, I was wrong. And then I go, oh, yeah, that's fine. Oh, good on you, Brett. That's cool. Okay, yep, I knew it was squat. Oh, yep. And then I just do a backflip and then don't think that it's the best thing ever. That irks me so much. You had a belief. I'm not talking about Brett now. Brett's trying to use science to do stuff, to come up with his theories. But people that just believed wholeheartedly in something can backflip that easy. Now, I'm not saying that I don't change my mind on stuff. But do you guys know me for anything? Do you know me for, oh, here's the guy that believes this wholeheartedly. Here's the guy who will double down and believe this. I can't think of anything that I'm that attached to, that I have that much evidence of, that I believe that everyone needs to do it this way. In fact, I'm the exact opposite. The more I learn, the more I appreciate how nuanced everything is and how the science in any study is just some info that you can use to help mold your beliefs and change your beliefs. My problem is when people are so steadfast on something and then they just backflip. This study says this, and people are like, yep. And then they go, actually, changed my mind. The study now says this. And then they go, yep, that's cool. That's not cool. That is not cool. You're allowed to change your beliefs. But maybe the purpose of this video is to be able to look when studies come out, or if you're listening to someone who is extremely passionate and really believes what they're talking about, it's okay to just say maybe. It's all right to say, wow, that I can see how that makes sense in this regard. I'm not going to change my whole beliefs entirely, but I'll see where that sits over the next couple of years as more info comes in. How are we so malleable that we can just be changed because they're a PhD and the inventor of something? So I'm going to go through his post and show you how I would read it and how I would. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to announce the very first squat versus hip thrust hypertrophy paper. So this is about muscle size. Okay, that's important. First up, anyway, he's been wanting to do this study. He's had to do it himself. He's had to fund it himself. He was wrong that the hip thrusts kick the crap out of squats for glute growth. And he was wrong about the EMG, which is when they measure the activity of a muscle, being predictive of hypertrophy. I was wrong about hip thrusts kicking the crap out of squats. It ends up being that they're about the same, I think he said. So they're still good. Hip thrusts are still good for glute growth. But he was wrong. He was wrong about it kicking the crap and being better, and wrong about EMG being predictive of hypertrophy. That to me is the even bigger one. So EMG is, I think, where they, put fucking shit on you and tense things, and they can see how much something contracts and stuff like that. Very sciencey based things. Stuff where, for me, if I see EMG said this, look, a barbell curl is better than a dumbbell curl because of this study. And I'd be like, well, does that person's arms move the same as mine? What's he thinking when he does it? What weight is it? How long have they been training? What did they have for dinner? How much sleep are they on? There are so many, too many variables. These studies are worthwhile because they can give you some type of frame of reference and some direction to go in. But guys, you can't just think, oh, barbell curls are better because this little fucking thing said so. Wrong. Might be better. Still might be better. You get to decide, guys. Have some balls. And girls, have some balls. Figure things out for yourself. Try it for yourself. Take studies as information and see how it filters through your mind that you use, wherever your mind is. You use it. Use your mind. All right. I was right about the glutes not responding better to long length compound movements in comparison to short. Okay, so a squat would be a compound movement with a long length because the glutes are stretching under the load, whereas with a hip thrusts, even though the glutes are kind of stretching down, the load and the moment arm's very different. That's what I'm getting from that. But I already knew due to training my pecs and having the world's smallest titties, and now they're not the smallest, I learnt full range of motion isn't needed every exercise for muscle growth. I already knew that with no studies. Well, a little bit of this study, but also this study, making sense of the things that are happening. Have you ever seen someone with a pec that's only big like here and tiny here because they didn't do full range of motion? Doesn't happen. Okay? Range of motion is important for maybe flexibility, not getting stiff in certain areas. Maybe it's better on the joints. Maybe it's better for safety sometimes. And then for other people, the opposite. Less range of motion is going to be better for the joints, for flexibility, for blah, blah, blah. You get to decide, motherfucker. You're in your body. Stop listening to these fucking shit. All right. You know what grinds my gears? Anyway, all right. I hope that's making sense so far. How even with his just first page here, I can pick it apart and say stuff. All right. And this Jay Vincent guy who, if you want to chat to someone and feel like an idiot. So the reel I made saying hip thrusts weren't more effective than squats that you commented on saying I was wrong was correct. I'm not going to read the replies. It'll just be people probably backing up Brett. Fantastic, man. Here's the comments. First of all, this is very cool. 18 participants is not enough to claim anything. That's true. Nothing is. Even if that was 180. If that was 10,800 people, me being Michael of my own volition, not intimidated by someone with a PhD, someone that's spent time in the gym, someone that can look at things objectively, subjectively, personally, anecdotally, which is personally, 1019. It's always 1019. You get to decide, guys. Just because a study says something. Passionate about this, apparently. I didn't know I was that passionate. Lift, run, bang. He says stuff as well. Most of it, this wasn't a study designed to answer the question. Misguided. Cool study nevertheless. All right, so maybe other... Nice one, Brett. You bloody idiot. The findings are not too different to everything that I've learnt from you about glutes anyway. Yeah, so this isn't about him being wrong. To me, this isn't about him being wrong about hip thrusts. That's not what it's about. This video is more how I would look at studies if I was to look at it. If someone sends me a study, I'll pretty much just read the main part. I won't go into it and find flaws with it. That's great. If people do that, that's fantastic. I'm just like, cool, there's some info. That's it. That's just as good info as my next door neighbor who doesn't go to gym coming over and telling me some info. They're both just, I get to sit with it. What makes sense to me? What have I seen? Unless you're an idiot. If you're an absolute idiot and you know you're an idiot and you can't make sense of things and think for yourself, then you'll have to trust others. That's very dangerous. Very dangerous to be an idiot. Could be peaceful, I'd imagine. Not that I'm not an idiot. Here's how the study came to be. Don't care. MRI is expensive. Yep. The lead researcher, Mike Israel, Schoenfeld, all these people have done. All these people I've heard of. Well, not Mike Roberts. And I can think of things that I appreciate from their work and I know what they're saying, and other things where I actually disagree with them. And I can make disagree just meaning I can make arguments against their findings. We decided to examine a variety of things. An EMG on the glute max, a hypertrophy of pretty much all the legs, specific strength, so if they got stronger at the specific exercise, and non-specific strength. Can't remember what non-specific strength. They were all beginners, so that's great to know. A beginner, in my experience, when I hear the word beginner, the people I've trained really struggle to connect to their muscles. Not every beginner. I'm sure there's beginners out there that aren't like this. I haven't met any. But if I say flex your quad, that's quite easy. Flex your calf, a bit harder. Can you sit there and flex your tits? Can you do your bicep? Without your arm moving, can you flex your bicep? What about without your arm moving, can you flex your tricep? Delts, struggle. Traps, struggle. And that's me. Bodybuilders that are flexing all the time in front of the mirror, or guys or girls that just flex, or the more you train and are aware of it, you can start contracting your muscles more against no force. That matters. So you're testing beginners. When you say do a hip thrust, are they just going to push the weight up, or are they going to tuck the pelvis and squeeze the glutes and then down, and they imagine it and they put their mind in the muscle and they squeeze it? That matters. That matters for this study. Doesn't mean you have to throw the whole study out, but you don't have to go, oh, I believe everything you say. The training regimen was 9 weeks long, 18 participants, hip thrust group, squat group. They changed the amount of sessions per week, the sets per week. But I already, due to my studies and knowledge and passion towards this thing, I've already kind of made up my mind. I feel like contradicting myself there. I already know where I sit with how many sets I believe a natural person that's been training for a couple of years should be doing. So 6 sets per session of the one muscle group. Did you know that the studies, and I'm not going to provide them, do your own stuff. Training near failure. To failure or near failure for one set is the same as 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 sets, as long as one of those sets hits near failure. The main difference is now, if the more sets you do, the longer your recovery is going to be. So if you're on drugs, you can do more sets and recover from it. If you're not on drugs, anything after one set to failure is actually just eating into your recovery time. So the next time you train, so that matters for this as well. That matters how well recovered they are. Not talking about their diet, not talking about their mind. Doesn't mean you have to throw this out. The results. The glute max was very similar. I wonder which one was more though. Very similar might just mean negligible. So between squats and hip thrusts, the glute max growth was similar. The medes and hamstrings didn't grow much with either group, but still grew a little bit. Were they doing anything else? So that's the thing. Limb length. Limb length on the squat. If you got someone with longer femurs and they bounce out of the hole and their hips go up first, and their hips are higher than their knees and they pull a little bit with their hamstrings, versus someone else in that squat group that's got tiny femurs, little short quads, very upright, hamstrings do less. Imperfect study, as every study is going to be. Quadriceps and adductors grew markedly more with squats. Makes sense that I think I should say than they did with hip thrusts. Hip thrusts only grew the glutes, whereas squats grew the glutes and thighs. So if they call that bang for your buck, right? If you want bang for your buck, you'd go do squats because you get to train more musculature. But if you got more time, if you're someone that has a lot of time and you're invested in your training, then you could just go focus on the glutes. Or if you don't like squatting, okay, so that's all pretty normal stuff. The squat group gained more strength in the squat, and the hip thrust gained more hip thrust in concordance with specificity. Specificity meaning the more you do something, the better you get at that, which is why if you want to increase your squat, you need to squat more. You need to squat to get better at squats. That doesn't mean that doing a leg press can't help your squat, but the best way to get good at squats is to squat more. That's to do with your nervous system and less to do with your muscles. I shouldn't have said less, but it's got a lot to do with your nervous system. The more you do something, the better you get at it. Even if you go throw a ball with your opposite hand, if you're a bit like me, you feel like an absolute Gumby when you do it. But if I practiced it more and more and more, you get better. You get better at the skill. And we call that stronger, but the muscles might not have actually learned how to contract stronger or gained any muscle, but our neuromuscular system, whatever that means, our nervous system gets better at things. So he's saying that, which I already knew that. I could have told you that. Everyone, I thought, knew that. With non-specific lifts, the deadlift and isometric wall push, the gains were similar. So I don't get this. EMG was not predictive of hypertrophy, as hip thrusts elicited higher glute activation than squats, but growth was similar. So I'm going to go through this part now quickly for you guys to show you how I would think about this. EMG was not predictive of hypertrophy. I already have that belief that EMG is not always, it's good info, but I already had that belief. So when he says that, I go, yeah, that actually, I kind of already knew that, but I wouldn't double down on it. I would not make videos saying EMG is dumb, EMG is ridiculous. You got to think of this. There could be times where it's useful. I'm open to that. So like I was saying before, depending on how well you can contract the muscle and think of that one muscle, is that will dictate the EMG, right? But it's interesting that this study proved that, although it was only 18 people and all beginners, as hip thrust elicited higher glute activation than squats, but growth was similar. Yeah, interesting. Subjects felt their glutes more working harder in the hip thrust, but this didn't translate to more growth. That's huge. I didn't know. I'm not going to pretend to have known this a few years ago. I used to, with bodybuilding workouts or accessory work, I used to go very much by feel. And I still stand by that. I still will do that. But there's some exercises that if I feel it more, I'll do that exercise. If I can't feel it working that target muscle group as much, I won't do it. This makes me kind of think that as long as that muscle's working, I'm going to get something out of it, even if I can't feel it. That's what I would take out of that. So if someone said to me, hey, I'm not feeling this work, should I keep doing it? I'd say, well, I can see that it's working, so it is going to work for you. But maybe we can find something that you feel it working a bit more. Because if you feel it a bit more, I think you'll see better results. Because you're in the muscle. You just that it will increase the belief and it will increase your mind to muscle and it will just help. So this also brings into the discussion why I struggle to answer people with certain things when they ask questions. Because when you know more, it makes it hard to just double down. And doubling down on something is a great sales tactic. There'd be a reason why this guy has however many followers he has and stuff like that. Doubling down on something and being very adamant on one way of thinking is a great way to get a lot of people on board to that way of thinking. And it doesn't mean that you're deceitful. It doesn't mean that you're lying. Some people would. But I struggle to do that. So where the subjects felt it more, didn't predict glute growth. EMG activity didn't predict glute growth. I just reckon this is huge. Muscle length and stretch favors a squat, didn't. So full range of motion, that's saying to me. Soreness, didn't predict. I still like soreness. I'm a big fan of soreness. Didn't predict glute growth. There is more biomechanics than meets the eye, and we have much more to learn. So I hope that I'm not picking on this guy. Not that he's ever going to see it. No one's going to dob on me or anything. But this is well worded. He admitted he's wrong. He's done his own study. There's so much great stuff to what he's said and done. It could be that since the glute max isn't highly activated at the bottom of squat, the stretch-related growth is diminished. Yep, cool. Coming up with some conclusions of his own, and he's just using the word could. He's just using the word could. He's not promising anything. It's what I would do. It could be this. It's just a hypothesis. It's a premise. Where are we? This paper will be one of the most downloaded and discussed. The powerlifting and just squat camps get to save face. Yep. And say, see, squats grew the glutes just as effectively as hip thrust, but they grew the thighs and increased squat. So I can still make here's me, and the way I would look at this is the people that are adamant that just squatting's enough, I'd try and look at what are they missing though, if anything. If you're happy, and I made a video yesterday about calories, if you're happy with your results, keep going. It doesn't need to be explained all the time. If you're not happy or there's other people doing better, that's dangerous. If you believe that you can do better with your results, you're going to have to change your approach to things, and you might have to admit that your approach is wrong, which might mean going against studies. You might have to have the courage to go against someone with a PhD and say, you know what? I don't think these hip thrusts are doing it for me. I'm going to bail. Thanks, Brett, for trying and everything, but I'm going to try something else. And you can have the balls to do that. You all do. You have big, big cojones, even you ladies. The bikini petter that said just hip thrusts gets to say face. See, squats aren't superior. Yeah, so everyone wins. To me, this just kind of proves where I sit on things. Instead of doubling down on something and finding the differences between all these different types of training, find the similarities. What are these people doing? They're training hard. They're training regularly. They're eating well. They're focused. They've got a desire to improve. They're training near failure being the really thing that actually only matters. With all these studies, here's my answer. If you want to grow your glutes, you need to train the glutes to failure. Natural athlete. I don't know, once a week. You can go to twice a week and try. You can try 3 times a week. These people on his page, apparently, they train their glutes 3 or 4 times a week and they see results. So try it. Just because it works for them doesn't mean it works for you. Okay? Try it. My problem, and the reason I started this video, is people jumping on bandwagons and jumping off bandwagons onto the next one so freaking flippantly, like Flipper. And that's not just the exercise world that this happens. It is the medical world. It is diet world. It is just everything in this world. We just have this predisposition to, if someone comes out with a study and they're very, what's the word I used before? They're very adamant and strong with their beliefs. It's this, it's this, it's this. People go, yep, 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 yep. Without thinking, maybe not. Maybe not. It's okay to say maybe. You don't have to follow these people. You don't have to follow every bit of advice that someone with a PhD or someone with a lot of followers or someone that is really strong, someone that looks great. You can just take their advice on board and let it filter through your beliefs. You're your own person. You are your own person with your own beliefs. Learn to trust yourself unless you're an idiot. And if you're an idiot, all that'll happen is you'll make some mistakes and you might lose some money and waste some time and hurt yourself. And then you'll learn, and I reckon after a while you won't be an idiot. I'm still headed that way. I'm not even saying I'm not an idiot. Anyway, what a rant. All right. Well, thanks, Brett, for releasing that and giving me something to think and chat about. Let me know your thoughts. Are you someone that just... there's so much more to it. See, a lot of people will go through this and read everything. I'm not going to pretend I know what this is. I'm not going to pretend. This guy is, in this regard, smarter than me with his PhD. I'm not saying that he's not smarter than me. He knows what this means. I could figure it out. I could sit here on my Sunday figuring out what all this means, but I don't care. I already have my thoughts on what makes muscles grow, what makes muscles stronger, and everything that he found sits in line with what I already thought or what I already knew or hoped or perceived to be true. Did I learn anything? I didn't learn anything. I didn't learn anything from his study that I didn't already know. It reaffirmed a few things, and it upset me that people shared. What happened was I saw heaps of girls on my, Instagram, shared his post saying, like, thanks for doing, good on you for apologizing, something like that. And I was just like, all you've been doing is hip thrusts, and now you're going to start, people were saying that now, no, squats, see, the answer is squats. And I'm like, you've been doing hip thrusts, you've been loving hip thrusts. Just how fast we just change our minds. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'd love to know other people's thoughts if you made it the whole way through the video. All right, I'll chat to you soon. See ya.